Hi everyone, my name is Precious. I'm working with Bodicella and Mackenzie on race and criminal justice. I've decided to make a PowerPoint for what I wanted to talk about to get my point across more thoroughly. So I'm not going to keep you guys any longer. I'm just going to get right into it. So before discussing cash bails, I wanted to discuss American poverty rates in 2019. So there were two major poverty groups that reached historic lows in poverty rates. African Americans poverty rate was at 18.8%, and for Hispanics it was at 15.7%. Although there was a major decrease since 1959 when these estimates were first conducted, African American poverty rate is still 1.8 times greater than the rest of the population, while Hispanic share in poverty is standing at 1.5 times greater. So before getting into cash bail, I thought about a Martin Luther King quote that is really related to this topic. He said, "I am now convinced that the simplest approach will prove to be the most effective. The solution to poverty is to abolish it directly by a now widely discussed measure, the guaranteed income." Now, with the cash bail system in America, if you don't know what bail is, it's basically the amount of money you have to pay to be released until trial. Um, What I wrote here is that America is criminalizing poverty with the cash bail system by allowing those who can afford bail to be released until trial. However, those who cannot must remain behind bars. I also found a New York City article about how only 15% of people can pay their bill when it is set at $500 or less. That means that left over 85% have to remain behind bars because they can't afford to pay their bill. An example of this is an African American man named Khalif Browder. He was 16 years old when he was arrested in 2010 because they accused him of stealing a backpack. He couldn't afford his $3,000 bail, so he had to spend 3 years of his life waiting until the court decided to just drop his case due to the lack of evidence against him. In 2015, he committed suicide because of the emotional abuse he faced while in prison. He faced those 3 years, and his family had said that he simply was traumatized. Now, America's founding principle is supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. However, as of right now, there are about 450,000 accused of a crime but not yet convicted until their trials. In order to avoid staying in jail, people tend to plead guilty even when they're innocent and pay a fine to return to their lives. So basically, it's like even if they plead guilty, they have this charge and they simply plead guilty to stay out of prison, even if they have this charge because they don't want to be in jail. Who wants to be in jail? The state of California was the first to pass a bill to abolish the cash bail method and instead of use risk assessment tools. So basically, that's when they decide on how to, if they want to put the defendant behind bars or release them based on things such as their charges, their age, and criminal history. The defendant can be placed into 3 different levels: low, medium, or high. Low are usually released and have to return for the trial. Medium, I believe, is when they do the parole board, where they have a group of people come ask the person questions and they come to a decision together as to if they're safe to the public. And high is when they're going to be put behind bars until their trial. Now, the problem with this is that many people think that it can be very unfair due to people having their own bias. A judge could be racist against one group of race and decide, well, I'm just going to put you behind bars because I think you did it because of your race. And of course, they won't say that, but that's their bias. But Other times, there's this algorithm that compares defendants to past criminals that committed the same type of crime. So they compare by saying, well, if this person in the past did this and they committed this crime, this person might do the same thing. Okay, so this slide it's in U.S. incarceration rates by race and ethnicity. The Bureau of Justice and Statistics found that African Americans are 5.1 times more likely to be incarcerated in state prisons than whites. In 11 of the U.S. states, 1 in 20 black men are in custody. Latinos are incarcerated at 1.4 times the rate of white people. This image down here says the number of people incarcerated per 100,000 people in each racial or ethnic category.